everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a deck centered around, well, it's not really centered around one card, it is kind of a combination of three cards, and that is Vespiquen, Vileplume, and Yanmega, or Yanmega, Vespiquen, Vileplume, or YVV as I kind of like to call it. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, how much do you guys hate item lock strategies? Now, this could range from anywhere from, like, I mean, I mildly dislike playing them, they don't really bug me, but it's just a little annoying to face them, to all the way up, and I hate item locks so much that I want to buy every Vileplume, Trevenant, Seismitoad card in the world, pile them up, douse them in gasoline, and light them on fire as all the fanboys and fangirls of item lock begin to cry. So leave a comment in the comment section below as to how much you hate item lock, and no, I'm not giving you the option to like item lock, because let's be real, nobody likes item lock. That's not a thing. Nobody really likes item lock. I mean, you do it because it's an amazing strategy, and because it's a time-tested and proven strategy that is very, very successful, but nobody actually likes item lock. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, it's centered around Vespiquen, Vileplume, and Yanmega. And Vespiquen Vileplume was already an archetype that had some great success. I think it was right around, what was that, States, where Vespiquen Vileplume really came out. In things like Nationals and Worlds, it really fell back because people were able to figure out how to play around it, and it just didn't have the best of matchups. But it was still a very cool, well, not really a cool deck. It was a very successful deck to use. Let's be real, any deck that's around an item lock is not a cool deck and cannot be considered cool by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, yeah, Vespiquen Vileplume was a very successful deck. And then at Worlds, I believe it was Seniors, we saw a Vespiquen Yanmega Break deck win the Senior World Championships. So obviously all these guys have good combinations, but in this deck I'm trying to throw all three of them together, and this is probably the deck that I have tested the most before doing a live with, just because it's so clunky and you have to get the right number of cards, and really this deck is nowhere near as good as it was back when Battle Compressor was in the standard format. 'Cause, I mean, Battle Compressor made this deck tick. As you can see, there's a lot of potential for clunkiness with, like, maybe drawing too much of the Vileplume line, or too much of the Yanmega Break line and not Forest of Giant Plants or something like that, drawing cards that you don't need. And also the fact that AZ got rotated out hurt this deck a huge amount, because suddenly you weren't able to pick up a Vileplume, and once the Vileplume is down, well, the item lock strategy is just there to stay. So I mean, this deck is not nearly as good as it was pre-rotation, but I still think this deck has some potential, and in the right, well, I mean, with the right list, I'm sure it could have some success. But I mean, this is the list that I have gone with. I am, you know what, I'm just gonna say it. I'm 100% positive that this is not the most optimal list, because I've only played with it for a couple hours, while people that take their decks to like regionals and worlds practice for days, weeks, I mean, even months in some cases. So I mean, either way, this is still a kind of fun deck to use that is centered around grass, and if you need to complete those daily grass challenges, then this is the deck for you. Now, actually, on to the deck. I'm running 3 Shaman. I mean, I know you guys don't like that I'm running Shaman in every deck, but Shaman is absolutely necessary in this deck, because part of the strategy is getting that turn 1 Vileplume and item lock, so being able to just draw more cards with Shaman is absolutely essential, and there's really no reason to not run Shaman in this deck. As for the attackers, I'm running 3-3 of Combee and Vespiquen, and then 3-3-2 of Yanmega Break. Really, this was the thing that I altered the most. I initially started with 4-4-3 of Yanma through Yanmega Break, and then like a 2-2 of Combee and Vespiquen, but then I realized that it was harder than I thought when you're item locked to get your hand down to 4, so I decided to increase the Combee Vespiquen line and decrease the Yanmega Break line, but then 4-4 was just a little too reliant on Vespiquen, who couldn't hit as hard without Battle Compressor, and you couldn't reliably get enough Pokemon in the discard pile to be able to hit for good damage with Be Revenge. So I decreased the Vespiquen and increased the Yanmega again, and this is what I ended up with. I encourage you guys to try that for yourself, just because, I mean, that's very much personal preference and what works best for you, and honestly, some of you guys probably know better than me. This is just what I went with and is a starting point for you guys. But Vespiquen, Be Revenge, you guys know what it does. I mean, it does 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile. We're running 25 Pokemon. In the right scenarios, Vespiquen can knock out, can one-shot EXs, and Vespiquen is great for cleaning up late in the game. Running a 2-2-2 of Oddish Gloom and Vileplume for that stupid item lock strategy. I know in Vespiquen and Vileplume it ran like a 4-4-3, but again, we don't have Battle Compressor, and I'm also trying to run Yanmega Break in this deck as well. So we had to cut back on the Vileplume line a little bit, which does kill the consistency. I mean, this deck is 100% not consistent, but when it does work, it works very, very well, which is why I decided to build it and run it. And again, you're not going to get the turn 1 lock as consistently as you were with Vespiquen Vileplume, but this is still a very potent strategy that works actually, I'd say over 50% of the time you can get a turn 1 if a turn 1 Vileplume, although usually it'll be like a turn 2. And then we were running 3-3-2 of the Yanmegas because, I mean, if you have exactly 4 cards in your hand, ignore all energy cost in the attack of this Pokemon's attacks. Well, I mean, that's perfect for putting the DCE on the Vespiquen, having that in the back, and attacking with Yanmega Break. So you can just leave Vespiquen in the background for when Yanmega Break gets knocked out, and then just bring out the Vespiquen and clean up your opponent. Then I'm also running 2 Unknown. I'd like to run 4, but I was trying to fit too many cards in this deck, because Unknown benefits Vespiquen directly, as it gets a Pokemon in the discard pile, and also gets you to draw another card, which helps with the consistency, or the... I mean, it helps with the mild consistency that this deck has, but I'm only running 2 just because I didn't want to run 4 because I needed cards elsewhere. And then I'm running 4 Acro Bike and 4 Trainer's Mail to help mill through my deck, get cards that I need in the right times. I'm also running 2 Revitalizer. Now, keep in mind, you might even want to cut this down to 1, because you're only really going to be using 1 Revitalizer, as hopefully you'll only have items for 1 turn of the game, and without AZ, you will not have items for the rest of the game if your strategy goes well. So, I mean, I could definitely see cutting 1, but sometimes your Revitalizer is prized, or you have to discard it before you're able to get Pokemon out of the discard pile. And if you're running such a thin line of Oddish Gloom and Vileplume, I went with 2 Revitalizer just because it helps you get those guys out, because, I mean, sometimes you have to discard both Gloom or both Vileplume or something like that before you're able to evolve it up, so having Revitalizer helps get that out. 1 special charge in case you have to, like, Sycamore or Ultra Ball away a couple of your DCEs. I mean, you won't be able to get those back once they're discarded, so using special charge gets them back into your deck for once you're item locked. 4 Trainer's Mail, already said, helps with consistency. 4 Ultra Ball gets everything out and gets Pokemon in the discard pile. 2 Judge, I'm only running 2 Judge. That's a kind of small line, especially when part of the strategy is so centered around Yanmega and Yanmega Break. But I tried 4, it killed a lot of the consistency. I tried 3, and the consistency was still not there. As weird as it sounds, having 2 Judges helps with my consistency more than you would think. I mean, it's really kind of weird that only having 2 Judges, no means of recycling them, with a card that relies on having 4 cards in your hand doesn't work. But I mean, it works for me. I encourage you guys to try to figure that out for yourself and see what works for you. And then I am also running 2 Lysander. I mean, Lysander is great, and normally I only run 1 in my decks, but because I do not have access to VS Seeker because of item lock, we're running 2. 1 Misty's Determination. This card is phenomenal in Vileplume decks. I mean, I cannot say that enough. This card is so good because you play it down and you can just get a card off the top 8 cards of your deck. Like, say you just need that DCE or something like that when you're item locked. Well, play Misty's Determination out, down, discard a card, and grab the DCE, and then that can also help to get rid of, play your hand down to, well, yeah, play your hand down to 4, because if you're at, like, 5, if you're at 6 cards, play down a Misty's Determination, discard a card, grab the DCE, play it onto a Vespiquen, well, boom, you're right at 4. 1 N, just because N can help with the 4 cards in certain scenarios. 3 Sycamore for the draw support, the guaranteed draw support, the consistent draw support, 4 Forest of Giant Plants so that we can evolve all these guys up immediately. 3 Floatstone, you want to run 3, if not 4 of them, for the Vileplume and like the Shaman or something like that. I mean, Yanmega and Vespiquen both have free retreat, so you really don't have to worry about them that much. But Vileplume, if it gets Lysandered active and you don't have a Floatstone on it, well, you're going to have to pay 2 DCEs for that retreat cost, and you're not going to be able to get them back because Special Charge is an item that you can't play with Vileplume. So basically, if a Vileplume gets brought active with a Floatstone, you're screwed. And if you use this deck, I 100%. I'm not just encouraging you. I'm telling you, do not play a Vileplume if you don't have a Floatstone. I don't care if you have the turn 1 item lock and your opponent gets a turn of items. Having a Vileplume where you don't have a Floatstone on it is absolutely disastrous and can pretty much single-handedly lose you the game. So even if you have to give your opponent a turn of items, do not play a Vileplume down unless you have a Floatstone on it. And then finally, 4 DCEs to power up Vespiquen and potentially Shaman if you need Sky Return shenanigans. But anyway, wow, I rambled for way too long. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Matt8817 with a Psychic deck, so this might be a Mega Mewtwo and Garbodor deck, which could be kind of problematic to face. I mean, depending if they are able to get a tool onto the Trubbish before we are able to get our Vileplume out, and they do get to go first, so that means... Oh, wait, why do they want us to go first? I don't know, but... Oh, jeez. This is Delinquent, Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer. Well, that just tells me that I immediately want to get a freaking Vileplume out. That way my opponent cannot do those Enhanced and Crushing Hammer shenanigans. And, oh, jeez, even red card. What the heck is my opponent running? I hate facing these type of decks just because it's like, oh, and Team Flare Grunt and Hypno. Good lord, this is disgusting. Yeah. Captivating Pokepuff? What is my opponent running? I'm so confused. I mean, we see the Hypno, but what is my opponent actually running? I'm legitimately confused. I have no idea what my opponent is running right now. Oh well, either way, I want to get his item shut off immediately. That way he can't, like, red card me or Crushing Hammer or Enhanced Hammer. Because if I can get a turn 1 Vileplume, I think I'll just be able to absolutely run him over. And I do have DCE, I have Floatstone, I have Trainer's Mail, and Acrobike, and I will be getting a bunch of cards off this mulligan. Oh, that's beautiful. I even get another Floatstone. So what I can do, go ahead and play the Forest of Giant Plants, go ahead and Acrobike. In my opinion, always Acrobike before you Trainer's Mail. That way you can look through guaranteed 6 cards of your deck. And then let's go ahead and play the DCE onto the Combee. Go ahead and Trainer's Mail for an Ultra Ball. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Lysander and the Judge to grab an Oddish or a Shaman. Oh, there's only one Oddish in my deck. Good to know. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and grab the Oddish, play that down there, play the Ultra Ball, get rid of a Floatstone and the Vespiquen, I think. Yeah, there's like no Pokemon in my discard pile. So even if I do get a Vespiquen and a Be Revenge next turn, I have to get more Pokemon in my discard pile to be able to knock out that Coughing. I'm going to go ahead and play the Floatstone onto the Shaman, or not onto the Shaman, onto the Oddish, play the Shaman down, and grab some more cards, see what else we can work with. And okay, this actually isn't bad. Let's go ahead and Shaman for 2 more cards. I mean, I have the Sycamore, so I'm not too worried. I get a Yanma. You know what? Screw it. I'll just go ahead and play that down. And then Sycamore, get more Pokemon in my discard pile. That way Vespiquen can knock it out next turn with a Be Revenge. And then, okay, gonna go ahead and Acrobike. Yeah, sure, what the heck. I'll just go ahead and grab a Yanmega. Maybe... Ah, darn it, I don't get anything to get a Vileplume. So there's no way... Well, actually, there is... Okay. I have to get, like, a Gloom and then, like, an Ultra Ball off of the Unknown. Wait, hold on. Do I have a Gloom and Vespiquen in my discard pile? I do not. Well, Revitalizer's not coming in handy this game. Okay, please get an Ultra Ball. Something. Get me a Gloom. Well, there's the Gloom, but darn it, Forest of Giant Plants. That's what I have to go with. Alright, Unknown, give me something. Let's see, can you get me like a you get me a Gloom or something like that to where I can Misty's Determination for something. Well, there's a Gloom. That works. And although I won't be able to get the turn 1 item lock that I wanted, I am just going to go ahead and retreat into my Yanma, just because leave my Vespiquen out of harm's way, and go from there. Because what I can potentially do is even get Misty's Determination for a Yanmega if, I mean, I draw another way to get the Vileplume. And my opponent does get a turn of items, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, like, I have a pretty solid board setup. And I mean, that's why this deck is so much weaker than Vespiquen, because Vespiquen could, I'd say with almost like 75 to 80% in the right build, get the correct, with almost 75 to 80%, with the right build, get a turn 1 item lock. And okay, my opponent just delinquents after red carding me. Well, I mean, I have the Sycamore in my hand, so that's not a big deal. Then he goes for the Bursting Balloon. All right, and I get another Sycamore. Well, I'm down to 9 cards, so that's something to kind of watch out for. But I do get a Vileplume. I can go ahead and evolve into a Yanmega. Let's see, I have 2 Vespiquen in the discard pile. That's unfortunate. Should not have played the Combi down. Well, my opponent did manage to, whatchamacallit, he did manage to disrupt me with that Delinquent. And I mean, it threw my strategy off because I now have a Combi that's not going to be doing anything this match. And you know what? Just going to go ahead and play the Vileplume down, item lock my opponent, retreat into the Vespiquen, and while I will be taking damage, I'll be able to knock him out with a B Revenge and take a prize. And then hopefully with the item lock, my opponent will, well, obviously my opponent won't be able to play Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, anything like that, or Red Card. I mean, he could Delinquent, but he can't even, oh, he can't even play Bursting Balloon. That's what I was getting at, because that could potentially knock out my Vespiquen next turn. And okay, my opponent does just choose to Lysander in the Shaman. That is fine. I have the DCE in my hand. At this point, I just win, because I can play the DCE onto the Shaman, play the Yanmega Breakdown, because why the heck not, and then go and retreat into my Yanmega Break just for style points, because I do have 4 cards in my hand, and go for a Barrier Break. I did not need to do that at all, but, I mean, I had attacked with Vespiquen, I locked my opponent with Vileplume, and I just figured, you know what, let's complete the trifecta and get Yanmega Break out there doing something. So, yeah, I mean, that wasn't exactly a competitive deck, but it kind of showed exactly what this deck does. It showed you that while a turn 1 item lock is definitely achievable, this deck isn't consistent enough to get it every time. So, I mean, sometimes you have to settle for the turn 2, but usually a turn 2 is enough. And, yeah, like I said, that wasn't the most competitive match. I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Quad Gunner, and okay, it looks like we are up against a Scissor Garbodor deck, or Mega Scissor Garbodor, whichever you guys want to call it, and we do get to go first. That is great. Maybe we'll get that turn 1 item lock or something like that, and, well, this is, I mean, it's less than promising, but I mean, it's promising at least. If I can get, well, actually, you know what, this is a pretty good hand. I do need that Floatstone, but I mean, I run 3 of them, so that's not that big of a deal. And, I mean, people are all talking about how good Scizor Garbodor is, but honestly, like, I really don't see it. Like, yeah, against something like Mega Mewtwo Y, it could be pretty good, but overall, I don't see it being that great of a deck. And anyway, sorry, I'm rambling at this point. What I am going to go ahead and do is just Ultra Ball, get rid of the DCE and the Sycamore, just because, I mean, I have the special charge in my hand to go ahead and put that DCE right back into my deck, especially because I don't have anything that I can attach it to right now, or that I want to attach it to. Then I'm going to go ahead and Shaman, get 5 cards, see if there's something I can work with. Can't work with it too well. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and play a Shaman for 2. If I can get, like, a Yanma, then that would be ideal. Well, I mean, I get something to get a Yanma, but what I can do is go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Oddish and the DCE. I mean, I know I've gotten rid of 2 DCEs, but at this point, with this deck, you honestly have a DCE to spare because you only are running 3 Vespiquen. I'm running the 4 DCE just for consistency's sake, but at this point, I mean, it's kind of just a, well, I want to make sure that I have a DCE when I need it. And unfortunately, I can't Revitalize it for a Combi. If I had a Combi right now, then that would be ideal. But I don't, and I don't even get a Vespiquen, so at this point I think I'm just going to... Yeah, I'm just going to end the turn right there. I mean, once again, we weren't able to get the turn 1 item lock, but I mean, that's not the end of the world. And actually, if my opponent can get a tool onto his... Well, that's perfect. If, like I said, if he got a Spirit Link onto his Scizor, then my Yanmega break will be able to hit it for extra damage, which is exactly what I want. And I'll be able to two-shot that thing with the... what was that, Assault Laser or something like that. My opponent does get the Parallel City to reduce me down to 3 spots on my bench. It's not a big deal because I have the Forest of Giant Plants in my hand, and especially because I still have items, so that is fine. Oh man, my opponent's gonna be able to end me, so that's gonna be annoying, especially, well, if he's able to end me, because I kind of like the hand that I have right now. And okay, my opponent actually just gets rid of the end, so that is even better. Well, I mean, I'm assuming he doesn't have another N in his hand, and he's going to go for a Hoopa, probably get some more Scizors out, and this, yeah, I mean, had I had that turn 1 item lock, I would have just shut down my opponent, and there would have been nothing he could do, because clearly, well, I mean, everything that he's been able to do this turn has been centered around items. It didn't look like he had a supporter in his hand, but I mean, odds are, if he's a competent player, then the last card in his hand is like a Sycamore or something, and he just grabbed the end to have something to discard with Ultra Ball. So he will be able to get 2 more Scizors and a Magearna down, and then yeah. Oh, he had a Shaman in his hand. Well, darn it. I mean, if we had gotten that turn 1, then my opponent wouldn't have been able to play the... Well, he wouldn't have been able to Shaman for that many cards, and he's just going to go ahead and max Elixir. Yeah, see, this is the problem with giving decks a turn of items and why this deck isn't nearly as strong as Vespiquen, because, I mean, sometimes all it takes is just 1 turn of items, and then you're kind of in trouble against decks like this. And there's the Vileplume. Well, I mean, that's slightly annoying, especially because I draw it now as opposed to like an Ultra Ball or something like that. But what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is actually, yeah, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and play the Vileplume down, and then judge down to 4 cards, judge my opponent to 4 cards, and then hopefully he won't be able to do much. Ooh, I even get a Yanma and an N for next turn, so, I mean, that works. Let's go ahead and just retreat the Vileplume into my Yanmega, and then go for an Assault Boom. Does 100 damage. I mean, I could have gone for a Barrier Break because that's kind of the exact same thing. But with this hand that I have right now, I can go ahead and play the Yanma down. If my opponent has a Mega Scizor and an Energy, he won't be able to one-shot me, which is great for me. He will be able to Steel Wing, but, well, yeah, even if he has a Energy and Mega Scizor, he won't be able to one-shot me. Unfortunately, I won't be able to two-shot him back just because Mega Scizor has 240 HP, and I'll only be able to hit for 120 this turn. But, okay, we do see... Does get another Energy. Does he have a Mega Scizor? Oh, geez, he has an N. Oh. Well, at this point, I'm just really, really hoping that he doesn't draw into a Mega Scizor. And, I mean, I do mean just a Mega Scizor. Doesn't even have to be directly. Well, I mean, it has to be directly, because if it's an indirect Mega Scizor, he won't be able to use items, and all he's able to do is Gale Thrust. So hopefully I'll be able to knock out this guy, knock out this Scizor this turn. And here's where Misty's Determination comes in super handy. I can just go ahead, discard that Trainer's Mail, grab a Combee, go ahead and play that sucker down, play the Vespiquen down on top of that. And would you look at that, my hand is back down to 4 cards. I can just go ahead and Assault Boom, knock out this Scizor EX, take 2 prizes, and then I can even end for 4 cards next turn after I play down probably my Yanmega and a DCE onto my Vespiquen in order to have 4 cards again to be able to attack with my Yanmega break once again. So I mean, this is where the deck is really shining, because even though I didn't go through as much of my deck as I would normally like to with having a Vespiquen as an attacker, I still have plenty of outs right now, and the fact that I don't have VS Seekers at all, I just have higher numbers of supporters, is really helping me, because my opponent probably has VS Seekers or something like that. Okay, he just goes for the Parallel Cities. Probably going to get rid of the Shaman. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good play by my opponent. It'll weaken my attacks, but at the same time, it will get rid of a card that would just be a free prize. And Magearna, yeah, just wanted to check to make sure that it didn't get rid of effects of Pokemon's abilities, just effects of attacks. And okay, what I can do right now is, yeah, yeah, play the DCE onto the Vespiquen. Do I want to play that on the Yanma? What I can do actually is, you know what, I could have Lysandered in the Hoopa or the Scizor or something, but I'm just gonna go for an N right now, just because, I mean, it gets me to 4 guaranteed. I only have 2 Pokemon in my discard pile, so that's not the best. Yeah, you know what, I will be able to knock out this Scizor next turn with my Vespiquen once he knocks out this Yanmega break. So I'm just gonna go for that right now. Be in an okay spot. I mean, my opponent will be able to take a prize this turn on my Yanmega break, or he'll Mega Evolve, one of the two. So, I mean, it's fine. Oh, my opponent just delinquents. Ooh, that's... Well, I mean, that's annoying, but I mean, it's fine because I get rid of a DCE, but that's not too huge of a deal because I've been attacking with Yanmega breaks anyway. And, I mean, I do have 2 DCE in the discard pile, meaning I have to be very, very careful with how I use that last one. I'll probably use it on, like, a Shaman or something like that. And then my opponent has another Parallel City in his hand, so he is just gonna... Why did he Steel Wing? What was the point of Steel Winging? I could Sycamore right now, or you know what? I think I'm actually gonna do this. Just gonna go ahead and Judge, get myself 4 cards again, and draw right back into a Sycamore. So that is phenomenal. What I can do is just go ahead and Barrier Break. Barrier Break ignores Parallel City, so that is a very, very great attack to have right now. And then I'll get 2 cards back. It doesn't really matter. I'm just probably going to Sycamore away my hand next turn anyway. My opponent will be able to knock me out with his Scizor, and I don't know why he didn't Gale Thrust. Gale Thrust would have knocked out my Yanmega Break. I'm just going to kind of chalk that up to an error on my opponent's part. And oh, he Hex Maniacs. Okay. He will be able to red card me, but I mean, at this point, I have items back, so I think I should be okay. Well, hopefully I draw something good off the trainer's mail. I mean, that red card hurt quite a bit. But if I can somehow get into my other Shaman, then I'll be fine. Yeah, let's go ahead. Go back into the Vespiquen, but now I have items. I have a Combi, I have a Vespiquen, I have a Forest of Giant Plants. Let's go ahead and trainer's mail, see what I can get. I get a Revitalizer. Oh, that's gross. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm only hitting for 7. Yeah, that red card actually was a very, very, very lucky draw for my opponent because I didn't draw my Sycamore. I didn't draw anything like that. And what I think I'm actually going to have to do is just go ahead and... You know what? How many cards? Okay, so I have 19 cards. You know what? I think I'm just going to Intelligence Gathering this turn because going for a Be Revenge really wouldn't do much. And then I can just get 6 more cards and go from there. Okay, I have another Combi and a Vespiquen, so I mean, had to kind of reset at that point, but I was still able to get a Yanmega breakout. And what I can hopefully do next turn, if I can draw into something that will let me play a card down, like a DCE or something like that, is I can go ahead and play the Combi. Actually, you know what? No, I need to save the DCE for the instance that a Shaman gets Lysandered out. So that's why I didn't play the Vespiquen down there. I was thinking it in my head, but I wasn't saying it out loud. So, I mean, I guess you guys can never actually know if I was telling the truth or not. But it's the truth. I need to save that last DCE for the instance that for the case that a Shaman gets Lysandered active, because otherwise I have 0 way of retreating it. I couldn't draw... Well, okay, there we go. My opponent just Lysanders in the Vileplume. Why would he do that? I mean, that's gonna put 70 damage on it, but I mean, I have the Float Stone. What I can do is go ahead and Combi Vespiquen. I mean, I'm not particularly hesitant about this, just because I mean I have a Sycamore in my hand, and also Vespiquen has free retreat. And then, you know what? Yeah, let's just Sycamore, get a little more damage onto the Scizor. I had to be careful with the cards that I have, and there it is. Well, there's all the Pokemon that I wanted to discard last turn. And then I'm just gonna go for a Be Revenge because why the heck not? And, I mean, it's unfortunate that I have so many evolutions in my hand because I won't be able to play down anything. But my opponent does just Sycamore, able to get 7 cards. But fortunately, he still doesn't have a Mega Scizor, and he will not be able to get one because, Well, he will have to end his turn in order to get one. And okay, just does 70, does 50 to my Vespiquen. That is completely fine with me. I get a Yanma. Unfortunately, I don't have a spot to play it. And at this point, I could be Revenge. Yeah, I'm just going to let this guy get knocked out. Because at that point, I'll be able to Vespiquen again or Yanmega break and pray. I don't know. I'm in a tough spot right now, and that's because I wasn't able to I mean, this is another instance where Battle Compressor would be so good in this deck because I would have been able to Battle Compress away all those evolutions that I wouldn't need. I'd be able to get rid of that Vileplume. I'd be able to get rid of a Yanmega and another Vespiquen, and that not only would have powered up B-Revenge, but it would have put me in a position where I wouldn't be stuck with the evolutions that I have in my hand right now. So this is a very, very unfortunate spot. Even just 10 more damage on the Scizor would have put me in a position where I could knock him out with a Sky Return and then not have to risk the DCE. Risk my last DCE and him potentially Lysandering in my Shaman and knocking it out. So, wait, my opponent just retreats his Scizor into his other Scizor because next turn, yeah, I mean, had he knocked out the Vespiquen, I would have been able to just attach a DCE to my other Vespiquen and then knock him out with a B-Revenge for the game. So, I mean, maybe if I can draw into a Lysander or something, draw into a Trainer's Mail, don't need that. What I am just going to go ahead and do is play the Vespiquen down, play the Yanmega breakdown, and I could attack, but what I think I'm actually going to go ahead and do is... okay, there's an Oddish in my discard pile, only one Revitalizer, so... yeah, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Okay, so it's only doing 80 right now. I'm just going to retreat into my Vileplume, let him knock me out, because at that point, if he knocks out my Vileplume, I'll have a stronger B-Revenge, I'll have access to items, and hopefully I'll be able to get another Vespiquen up in the meantime. And my opponent... well, I mean, hopefully he just goes for the knockout on my Vileplume, because that would be... I mean, that would be an ideal play. He knocks out my Vileplume, I get more Pokemon in my discard pile, I get my items back for my turn, and then I'm able to set up another Vileplume before my next turn, because I do have the Float Stone. I do have the Float Stone that I can play onto the Oddish again if I can manage to get it. My opponent is going to just Sycamore. I mean, he has such a good hand. Oh wow, I am so glad I have an item lock right now, because that Crushing Hammer red card shenanigans would just be annoying. And oh, I do get the Lysander, so I actually win right here. I can go ahead and retreat into my Vespiquen, go ahead and Lysander in the Scizor on the bench, and then knock that thing out with a B-Revenge for the game. So, very glad I run 2 Lysanders at this point, get 2 useless items off of my prizes. And, I mean, yeah, this deck, I mean, it went up against Scizor, Mega Scizor, which is known as Special Energy Hate, and I was still able to come through and defeat it. So, I mean, this deck, I think this deck has potential if people can figure out a list that gets it consistent enough. I mean, I tested for hours and I couldn't figure out and this was the best list that I could come up with for consistency's sake, but I mean, then again, I only played with it for a couple hours, while some people probably playing with it for days or weeks could figure out a much, much, much better list that would help you get that turn 1 item lock and just go from there. But, I mean, again, I'm going to go back to my Scizor thing. I'm not sure that deck is such a great deck at this point. I mean, people are all over it, but I think that deck really just has one good matchup, and that's against Mega Mewtwo Y, and even then, I mean, Mega Mewtwo Y loses to Rayquaza anyway, so I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But anyway, that is the deck, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, and this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.